first one is about half full. Close the lid so I can see the leak. And it leaks. Hello and welcome to, well, Carlin's Worlds. Yeah, that should work. I'm a wanderer, a tinkerer, sometimes a nomad, a military veteran. I do things differently. There will be tinkering. I have a motorcycle, a truck, and a school bus. I live off-grid, so there will be some solar, batteries, inverters, and maybe even some wind. It blows. And that's all I can fit into about 30 seconds. Oh, and please, if you like any of this, it would be really awesome if you could subscribe and click that notify bell. Drop a comment if you have any questions or ideas. Share, like, comment, subscribe, notify. Oh, and Patreon if you're really an awesome kind of person. Cool. On with the show already. Let's see if we can get this as a shot. Obviously that's forced perspective, but you get the idea. This is a bulkhead fitting, and this end will fit a garden hose. Alright, garden hose will go here, this will screw in. I gotta make a hole in the trash can, stick this through, tighten it down, and hope for a waterproof seal. Alright. So let's do it that way. It's all self-serve and whatnot. Stick it on. Now remember this is reverse thread, so it's going to spin on backwards. Yeah, for this kind of job, having some hand cleaner is nice. And I think if you're picking your shop towels, try to get a pretty one. This water is so warm right now from the sun hitting black. It's quite nice. Trash cans all get sand from the, just blowing. So you get the idea there, right? So as long as you don't suck from the bottom, it doesn't really matter. A bit of extra sand. And I had planned on doing this on several of the other ones, and I only could find enough parts to do two, so there it is. Something I hadn't showed yet. When I was putting this together, I came up with this also as a possibility. Unions will screw into here. T-fittings will screw into unions. Okay, so I could daisy chain multiples of these. Also, by using these, I can run, this is, I think these are 3/4. Yeah, these are 3/4. So those are 3/4 down to half. I can put a PEX fitting on here and run the pump directly off that. So that's a possibility for later. I'm just kind of making a bead of sealant along the edge here. This had kind of a tapered on one side and writing on the other, so I would assume that the writing would have to be where you could read it. Otherwise, I don't know. There was one day I was so mad. Over at one of those big box hardware stores. None of the things I needed to find could I find. It was just like, no, can't do it. And so finally I'm like, damn it, just give me a hose clamp. So I look around, of course nobody was there. But look around and find a hose clamp. And to be fancy, I want to get this yellow stripe off for some reason. So I did manage to find some nice premium hose clamps, so it wasn't a total loss. Millipede. He's got feet, a whole bunch of them.
I've also seen a really scary looking version of that. He had more like racing stripes and kind of aggressive look to him. I'd get closer, but that's as low as the tripod gets, so I'm sorry. He's about 4 inches long. Why not make it easy? Easier. Better. And yeah, there's really no reason I can think of to have that yellow stripe lined up. I just thought it looked nice. Whoa. I really should go into engineering. The more full it is, the faster it'll flow. I'm going to put a little bit more and then we'll see how it holds. Okay, first one is about half full. Close the lid so I can see your leak. And it leaks. There it is. Now the one thing I don't have is a valve. It'll shut off one to the other. That would overcomplicate things a lot. Could be done though. Now they'll sit there and equalize. The problem with equalizing when you got a leak is that they'll both leak down to that same level. That would be less than ideal. So I've got channel locks. These are actually called Robo Grip. They were Sears Craftsman, geez, 20, 30 years ago, I think. They might still exist. I'm hoping they're at least big enough. Also, I'm going to loosen up that hose clamp so I can turn the fitting and not turn the hose. Yeah, I got the same leak on the other one. Wonderful. Good thing about sand, put some dry sand there and then you'll be able to see the leak again. Yep, it's still leaking. Okay. Yeah, it is. Okay. I've got some thread tape. That's what we're going to do next. Let me go get that. We'll tape it. I'm going to drain this so I don't lose the water because I got to take it apart to put the thread tape on. Ah! Stop fighting me. Oh good, I did leave it running. Ah. Geniuses, geniuses. Alright. I did finally find the, I guess it's Teflon tape, right? Tape you put on to keep stuff from leaking. That's gonna have stuff all over it. So people who do this a lot just instinctively know which way to wrap it. So it doesn't, the idea is when you wrap it, you put it on in a direction that as you turn it in, it doesn't roll off, I guess. I don't know if I can think of a better way to say that. So you know if you twist it in clockwise, if the leading edge catches, it's not going to work, right? But that's intuitively, it's actually backwards. So figure out which way you're going to turn it in, put the leading edge of the tape forward, and then wrap it around. Since I know this one leaks, I'm going to wrap it a couple times. Teflon tape is fairly thin. And when you break it off, your trailing edge is facing backwards, and the tape has covered the leading edge. That way it won't catch when you're just threading it in. Because if you do it backwards, you'll be turning it in, and the leading edge will pull back, and it'll either just not work very well, or it'll actually make it leak. So after you got the tape on there, just thread it back in like normal. Now these being, that went in way too easy, didn't it? Yeah. Pipe threads have a slight taper to them. That's how they work. So you tighten them in, and as you go tighter and tighter, it because of the taper, it gets as you turn it in further, it gets tighter and tighter, I should say. Okay, that's basically worn right through. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put a few more wraps on there so that it's a little bit more bulked up. The other possibility that I had considered before I found the tape, I could just take this sealing compound and coat the threads, put it in there, and then it'll just dry. That would take care of that problem. Kind of messy, but it would work. There's also a substance that I've heard called pipe dope. It looks almost the same. It's white, but you brush it on instead of it being a tape. And it's the same idea. You just goop it on there, thread it in, and then it cures, and then it doesn't leak anymore. Works for air fittings, any, that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to give it a few turns. Tape is cheap, relatively. Of course, I'm 100 miles from town, so I don't want to waste it because I have to go back and get more then. But yeah. I used to work on airplanes, so I always think leading edge, trailing edge, which way is the wind going? Which edge faces the airstream kind of thing. But if you think of it turning, it's not going to grip when it turns. Okay, this feels a lot tighter going in. Keep in mind these are both plastic fittings, so don't kill them. Oh, you do want to snug it up a little bit, so I'm not turning it very, okay, that was the other thing. I didn't want to turn the bulkhead fitting, so now I'm going to try to hold that. But now I'm hoping that I haven't disturbed the seal of the bulkhead fitting. This does not need to be high pressure, it just needs to work. If I get the smallest drip, I don't worry about it so much. I just know that it's going to be a week before I do laundry again, and I don't want to find out that I lost 30 gallons of water. So that's kind of why I'm trying to get this not to leak. It's like we're out in the desert. I got to go 15 miles one way to get the water. And I'd rather not do that too often because I'm kind of spoiled. I'm driving my motorcycle to work at 50 miles to the gallon approximately, and the truck only gets 13, so I'd really like to not drive the truck very often. And the only thing I really need the truck for now is going to get water and, construction stuff. If I'm going to go buy lumber or something. Okay, I realize this part is completely silly, but go with it, right? I don't see an immediate leak on the first one, so got to put some pressure on it to see. It's not super fast, which makes sense. It's only a 3/4 inch fitting. It's coming through, or 5/8 or something like that. I think garden hose is 5/8. Any sand that's in there will settle down to the bottom, and then it's no longer an issue. And what's nice about that is, if any of the other trash cans, like for instance, you can see there's sand in all of these. Now I would waste water rinsing that out. Now I'm not hypercritical right now. If I regularly grab half a bucket of water and dump it out. In fact, I could dump it on a cactus and that would be fine. The cactus wouldn't care, right? But at the same time, if I don't have to, if I just leave it alone, that sand will settle out very quickly, and as long as I don't get 3 inches of sand in the bottom of that, it's not going to be a problem at all. And if I always dump into this one and leave that one alone, it should be cleaner, and that's the one that's going to feed the pump. So if this ends up working out well, until I get the tank in place, which may be really soon, my next step, I'll cut that hose and splice it together to feed the pump. And then they can feed off of both of them individually, or in parallel, together. Yeah, parallel, that's the word. Okay, I don't see any drips yet, that's a good sign. So I'm going to leave these two alone for now. I'm going to get the rest of the trash cans set up near here where I have just enough room to slide those back in position. I just want to leave it out where I can get to it and see it. And I don't want to have 50 gallons of water in there that I have to bail out again. Okay, that's about it for that though. I'm going to let that sit for a while, make sure it's not leaking. The last part of this, and I think I've showed part of this before, but just to put it all together. Over here, this part is pretty slow, especially if we're doing 200 gallons, but I don't have to be in a hurry either. This tank, the green hose, and my manifold all have matching 2-inch fittings. These are quick release. Open the handle, it releases the latch inside. Close it. It's kind of, I think I've heard people call it a cam lock, so it's kind of a cam action that locks it in place. Okay. That I can put on here. Now the hose is locked in the tank. That won't come off. Okay. The truck is elevated enough. I should be able to feed all of those trash cans right through the middle of the spider webs. Okay. What I like to do on this is put a clamp on the hose just so that it doesn't, because what will happen is as the hose fills it gets heavy, right? Working. Look at that. No pump. That'll just keep it from popping out of there. Now we got 200 gallons on the other side. So it's actually coming up relatively quickly. That's good. So I'm going to get this one set. Actually, no, I got to make sure I like these ones. As far as I can see, I don't have a leak here. So I'm going to take a chance on this. These two buried, when I first came up with the idea, I was nervous about if a trash can could hold water without bulging out too much. So I buried these down quite a bit. The other ones are stronger. Those two were kind of lightweight. Not a lot of thought goes into this, but I am leaving a walkway between them just so that if I want to walk in here with a bucket, I can bail from one side to the other. Also, you might be able to see the bee buzzing around. I'm sure they're real happy about this. I've had more bugs try to get a drink and drown in here, or the moths just get stuck to the water surface. Might be surface tension. Okay, that'll take forever to fill because that's the double one. The water flows fastest when the tank is the fullest. That makes sense. So if I do these now instead of later, they'll fill faster while I'm sitting here watching them. It's not really good clean drinking water out of the hose, but I filter it anyway before I drink it, so I don't drink all of what comes out of these anyway. I mean, some of them are coffee or whatever. Drink when you're thirsty and drink when you're not thirsty. That's a good start. I just looked at the truck. We still got about 200 gallons to go. This will be a while. But we should get most of it in here. Every little bit helps. Okay, it's about 7:45 p.m. I'm now down to about the middle of the pipe. You can see the 50 there, I think. 50's up here, so we're probably about 25 gallons now. That would put it at, what's that work out, about 200 pounds of water. I say that because I'm probably going to want to slide this tank back and tilt it a little bit to get the last couple inches out. The fitting, this is kind of clever. I don't remember if I got this on video before or not. On the fitting, they put kind of a reverse snorkel, such that it reaches down and pulls right down to near the bottom. That'll get it down to probably an inch of water or less, which is pretty clever. But anybody looking at this is going to be thinking, why in the heck did I plumb this whole system with a 2-inch pipe? I mean, that's frickin' ludicrous. It's unusual enough that I had a hard time finding fittings in quantities. Like Home Depot, I couldn't find those T-fittings. I had to go to, I think, Granger. You know, Tractor Supply had the quick disconnects. You know, I had to piece it together. I mean, the tank and a lot of the tank-related fittings came from Tractor Supply, which is agricultural kind of farming supply kind of place. So why then would I take the time and the obvious money? You know, I could have gone 1 inch. Down there is a 1 inch next to the 2 inch. I've got a few 1 inches that I was going to use for a different part of this that I haven't used yet. The actual plumbing is 1/2 inch. So I'm running, okay, that's actually, no, that's a 1/2 inch, I think, here. Yeah, the little piece there is a 1/2 inch, and then it goes to a 1/2 inch adapter to a 1/2 inch PEX. Okay. Now, oh, here's another one of these guys. Get them as close up here. They're just so cool. Okay, so well, this one is plastic recycling, but the other ones are all full of water now. And I'm now going to the joined tanks. Okay. And it's working. It's coming up. And you notice they're at the same level. Also, let me take a last look. This will be your upside down shot for the day. No wet sand. That's a good thing. Yeah, that one loops back and comes to this one. Kind of down into a shadow, but I can see it. There's definitely no water leaking, so the pipe thread worked. Pipe thread tape. Thread tape? Thread tape. Alright, so I want to make this kind of a short recap clip, I guess. So yeah, houses are not plumbed with 2-inch pipe. That's ridiculous. Houses are plumbed with 3/4 inch as a main feed on the PEX, and then you run 1/2 inch PEX to each faucet and fixture and things that start with F. No, just faucets and fixtures mostly. So it doesn't make sense to go 2-inch pipe, right? Well, the thing is, and I honestly didn't pay attention to the time. I did fiddle around with making those bulkhead fittings work, not to leak on the trash cans. So that was some time lost. But draining 200 gallons through 5/8 inch garden hose, and the length of the hose is a factor, and also I don't have a lot of vertical drop, but the top of the trash cans is below the bottom of the tank. So it will gravity feed out. And I'm down to the last couple inches in the tank, so it's definitely going to work. So this is working out well here. You can just flow so much faster through a 2-inch pipe, and that's kind of the thing. Now, does it matter how fast it is? Only if I decide I want to go back the same day and get another 200 gallons. I'd like to get the water out of the truck fairly quickly. I'm torn. Does it make sense to put anything else into my mini manifold here, right? With the 2 trash cans together. If the washer is out here, it's actually pretty handy to have the trash can right next to it so that I can just bail into it and fill it very quickly with a bucket. You know, I've been thinking about this lately after watching the rabbit drinking out of the end of. I have 4 of the elbows for the water manifold are just sitting up, and I flushed them when the first time I hooked up the truck tank to the manifold, and I just let the water run for a few seconds out of each fitting just to blow all the crap out. And so they were all full. Now with evaporation, they've been dropping down. Well, I thought it was evaporation. Then one evening I looked over, and here's one of the male jackrabbits, the big guys. He's got his head all the way down inside, drinking the water out of the end of that elbow fitting. I'm like, huh, maybe it wasn't evaporation. Maybe the rabbits are just learning how to drink out of that. And I don't know how far in he could reach, but I walked around with my gray bucket after the first time I saw it, and I refilled them all. I'm like, all right, I'll just, give him a little bit of free water. And a couple days later, I saw it again. The little rabbit was over there just drinking away out of it, or trying to. I don't know how far in he could reach. So hopefully, at least a few of the rabbits are getting some water out of there before it evaporates too low to where they can't reach it. But just sitting out here in the evening now, listening to the water run. My dad is always big about building water features, because where he lives, it's kind of deserty too. Up in Washington State, everybody thinks Washington is the evergreen state. Well, the Seattle side is, but the rest of Washington is a lot like this actually. Sagebrush, pretty hot, pretty dry. So a couple of his places now, he's built some kind of a little water feature, and it's just nice on a night like tonight to sit out and as it cools down to hear running water. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to understand that. It wasn't that big of a deal before. And if I could build a little pond that the rabbits could drink out of, that's okay,
Well, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, that should work. Cool. I do things differently. Oh, and please, if you like any of this, it would be really awesome if you could subscribe and click that notify bell. Drop a comment if you have any questions or ideas. Share, like, comment, subscribe, notify. Oh, and Patreon if you're really an awesome kind of person. Thank you so much for watching.